a big part of who they are. And I'm stating the obvious. I think they've done it throughout the course of the season. So anytime that's part of the team's identity, it makes it even more difficult.
Do you do anything for particular motivation techniques at all in the postseason?
I think your job as a coach is to consistently and continuously try to motivate your players. Sometimes your players motivate you. I think that's a characteristic of a good team. That they don't necessarily always have to look to a coach to be motivated. An opponent can motivate you. A matchup can motivate you. The more things that motivate you, the more opportunities you have to compete. Every now and then there's a Gipper speech that presents itself, but I think those things oftentimes are more situational, maybe more organic. A lot of it is feeling your team and trying to give them. Sometimes the best motivation is nothing. And when you think of motivation, you usually think of like intensity and emotion and energy. I think that's true too, but I think there's a wide range of ways that happens.
How about like bulletin board material? I mean, obviously everyone's going to be picking this up.
I think sometimes those things present themselves. That's, to me, there's different ways to communicate something. If you don't have bulletin board material, like, can you still be motivated? So I think I'd rather, just personally, I think that your actions are what you can evaluate. Sometimes words are great if they lead to the actions, but usually the actions usually speak louder than words or words you read.
If you look at the regular season record when it comes to the Celtics, obviously not beat them, and what do you do now? You can take away from those 3 losses to kind of correct it.
Yeah, I think you look at the things you didn't do well that led to the results. There's a lot of teams that didn't beat them. They're that good. I think it's no mystery that we've got our work cut out for us. They're that good a team, and they're going to have to compete and communicate and execute and do those things on a high level. And we're going to have to do it for a long time. Whether it's through a possession, through a quarter, through a game, through a series. That's what the playoffs are about.
What do they do so well that you really have to give the count?
Well, anytime a team is unique, that presents problems in and of itself. I think you can go through, they run, they can attack you in transition. Obviously, the three-point shooting is a huge thing, something they do well. They've done particularly well against us. They play through possessions. You'll have to defend multiple actions within a possession. You have to defend screening actions. You have to defend pick and roll. You have to defend isolation. You have to defend the three-point. So anytime a team has that many ways to score, and you couple that with the weapons that they have, particularly Jalen and Jason, Brown and Tatum. Those guys are 2 of the top players in the league, and I think what makes them really unique is their versatility offensively, different ways they can score. And then you move to the defensive end, and I think they're equally unique. They've got wings, they've got rim protection, they have the ability to switch. They've got Marcus Smart, who's, I've said before, to me is an elite player, possibly the best leader in the NBA. So, Joe's done an unbelievable job. I just have tremendous respect for him, the situation that he's been in this year, and the way that their team has performed. There's just a lot of things that you can look at about this team and make great problems for you all over the place. So that's why I say we got to look out for us.
You've been in the playoffs before as a head coach, obviously, but does it feel any different making this playoff run with a team that you kind of picked up with halfway through the season, and what challenges does that present to you when you are trying to get ready?
Well, it's every time I thought about it, it may have been the last century that I was coaching college, but whether it's that or the amount of games that you play in an NBA season, even though it hasn't been a whole season for me, there's enough games to really bond with the group. And that's what I think the most important thing for us is that connectivity. And adversity has a way of doing that, giving you those opportunities. Success has a way of giving you those opportunities. And the playoffs, maybe more than any other time of the season, has a way of bringing you together and sometimes splitting you apart. That's a challenge in and of itself.
Quin, when you guys have the rebounding night you did, especially on the offensive glass, how much of it is tactical, sending guys to glass, to the boards, and how much of it is effort and want to?
Well, it's a little bit of everything always. I know people thought that every ball bounced into our hands, that at least we were there. Transition defense is competing. It doesn't always feel like that as you're sprinting back with no visible reason in front of you until someone's laying the ball and then you wish you did it. So it's the more chances and the more situations you can recognize as requiring that level of focus and competition, I think the more successful you can be generally, as far as those things got to motivate you in and of themselves. And as a coach, if I can draw attention to those things, that helps our guys.
Quin, have you noticed defensively that while on the floor there are guys who are more vocal than others, and would you like the team to be more vocal as a whole?
And that's a great question, and it's a really hard thing. If I were to go and ask everybody here, who's communicative, who's vocal, everybody's got different comfort levels as far as how much they talk, how loud they talk. Some people talk a lot, some people talk loudly, some people talk quiet, some people lead by example. So I think there's different ways to communicate. But ultimately, communication is huge. It allows everybody to know what you're thinking, to play as a group. So it's something that I know all coaches emphasize, and I know part of leadership is communication, and a big part of it. So when you have that on the floor, that's something someone that's a form of competition. Helping other guys to recognize and to talk. And I think it's something that a team, like a lot of different skills, whether it's running or shooting, it's something a team develops. And certain teams are better at it than others. Sometimes it's more natural than others, but I think it's something that everybody has to really aspire to.
How much of it can you hear when you're on the floor? Like when you're on the sideline, how much of the talking?
I won't be able to hear much of it in the guard, I'll tell you that much. People look like they're lip syncing or whatever. I'm a ventriloquist. But hopefully we're trying to do it. And I think that's even, nonverbal communication. It's a big deal. Pushing, you can't foul your own teammate. I think you communicate too by your actions. So, whether it's something that's audible or not, I think it's something you've got to try to do. There's certain times you can do it too. You do it in a dead ball situation or a timeout. But really, the most valuable form of communication is the kind that occurs actually during competition. I shouldn't say the most valuable, the hardest. It's the hardest time to generate that when you're focused on doing something. For all of us, if you're tremendously focused on something, it's hard to have a conversation on something.